you spoke about how you went, I think, to a DMV or something, and how you told someone that you wanted to like become, I think, a writer, and how
Right.
they like laughed at you. Something like
Uh,
that, along
sure.
those lines. I'm probably missing a lot of information, but
Yeah. Little details, but more or
yeah.
less.
So basically, I'm Giselle, and I'm Mexican,
Hmm.
and so like growing up, like I had a lot of like, I guess you could say like culture shock later in life
Uh,
because of that, right? So the thing is, I think I have seen like I feel like I actually learned a lot about like my roots and everything. What I wanted to say is, so I know that like a big thing in our culture is colorism, right? Like that's a common thing, right?
right.
And so basically what happened is like about a month ago, I live in like a really like sunny state, so it's like 100 degrees like where I live, right? Like in the summertime. And I work from home, so I don't go out. But there was this one day that
Mm.
we went to the beach, right? Like me and some people. I come back. It was like this woman, and she has like a really negative kind of like point of view. Like she's just one of those people that you have to like watch out for because you can just tell like their vibes, the way they are. Like I noticed that she was like looking at me, and I was like, "Hi, like how are you doing?" Like, and she also like said hi, and then she was like, "Oh my," like in Spanish, but in English, she was like, "Oh my gosh, like you're so like burnt, like you're so dark, but like in a very bad way." I was honestly, I didn't even say anything because I was like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
not here to like lecture people and like it's not my thing, but like
Yeah.
I was so off guard. But I had seen like all the TikToks and I noticed how like a lot of people that say stuff, it's like projecting, right? And the thing is, you know, this lady who told me that her natural skin tone is like honestly 10 times darker than me. So I just didn't say anything, but it was like one of those things where it's like it happened to me like later in life, but I heard so many people talking about like how growing up they're compared to their siblings and like it happens to them.
I've experienced things like that too, where I remember when I was a kid, probably preteen,
Mm.
and a cousin of mine that I hadn't seen for like 2 years, we met up in the summer right before school, and she see me and she says, like, damn cousin, you got hella blacker. You could tell based on the way it said that it's like
Hmm.
it's to be ashamed of to get darker.
Yeah.
To be dark, first of all,
Yeah.
just to be dark in general, right? But the fact
Hmm.
that you and I are considered dark skin in our culture, right? The fact that you and I are born this skin is already like, damn it. But if we don't make an effort to avoid the sun and allow to get darker, it's like,
Yeah.
damn, bro, like, why aren't you like taking care of yourself by like staying all away from the sun so you don't have to get darker, you know?
And I just remembered there was actually one other person that actually did say something to me, and this was actually my own aunt. So I remember we were sitting down like at a table, and this was also, I don't know why. Everything happened the day after I came back from the beach. She was like, I'm my name's Giselle, so she was like, Giselle, deberías de casarte con alguien como ojos azules, cabello rubio, porque si consigues a alguien de tu color, tus hijos van a estar bien morenitos.
Hijo de
And
la
I just looked at her,
chingada.
just looked at her like, whoa, like that's, you know, but that's crazy too because her skin tone is even darker than what I was from
Mm.
when I came back to the beach. So like the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, both of these people that had, you know, the nerve to say something to me, they're like projecting, number one. But it's just sad because it's like it makes me really like empathize because I'm like, okay, so then they must really hate like their color, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
really messed up because why? You know, like that's I'm like I'm sure when they were younger, millions of things must have been said to that to them, but I'm like, wow,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
that's crazy. It was
Yeah.
just so crazy because I was like, wow, that's the first time people
Mm-hmm.
say something like that, and I'm just like, that's and she's this is like a full grown adult woman. She has like $3, and I'm like, just really hearing it, like it just like it's crazy.
Just like a lot of Mexicans try to assimilate. That's why they came up with phrases like mejorar la raza, because they want to whiten, they want to assimilate, they want to be white. The biggest advice that your auntie has given you was to, mija, cásate con un blanquito. Look, is it racist and colorist? Of course it is. But is she trying to look out for you? Yes. She's trying to look out for you because we have been under the impression that being dark is inferior and being white is superior. So your aunt is trying to look out for you. She doesn't realize how racist and colorist she's being because it has been normalized. That's the key word here. Es normal to be colorist. It's normal to look at dark-skinned people as inferior, as fails, etc. And it is normal to look at white people as la gente que queremos ser.
Like, I'll marry whoever I want to marry, you know?
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be based on colorist and racist views. It should be, this is who I fell in love with. Absolutely. If our reasons for being with a particular somebody is due to colorism and racism, that's how it's wrong. What I am, though, trying to do, or hoping I can do, is become aware of the colorism and racism and to not be a victim of going on about your life with those colorist and racist views. That's what I try to do with these videos, is become aware, because that's why people like us are in the predicament and the condition that we are as a whole, because we have inherited colorist and racist views. And not only white people created a system that runs to push these views, but we have also unfortunately learned to practice these views, put them into action. That's how we treat each other, you know? Like the example, I think I gave you the example of when, you know, my little cousin was born, a light-skinned boy. I've said it plenty of times. My grandma was super happy talking about, oh, mira qué bonito, güerito como un angelito. But then my other cousin was born who was dark-skinned. I was like, ay, pobrecito, qué negrito salió. So you see, my goal is to bring awareness to these things and how it's wrong so that we won't continue this life with these views that obviously are views that create self-hatred in us. Internalized racism, meaning racism against ourselves. That we are only wanting to be with white people and reproduce with white people because we don't want our kids to look like us. We want them to be white. That is how we're self-racist. So what I'm trying to do is make sure you're not a victim of these hateful views that are going to create internalized racism. You know, that's what has harmed us as a people. In Mexico, to be specific, is what harms us is the fact that collectively we have these views and we inherit them. They're passed down to us. These views of hating our skin, talking about, I'm not a Mixteco, I'm a Latina. Why? Because every time that they think about Latina, we think of a light-skinned Spanish-speaking person. And we rather identify with that than with the indigenous who is obviously inevitably dark-skinned. What part of Mexico were you born?
Well, my parents had me in America, but they're from Oaxaca.
Oh, you're Oaxaqueña. Okay. I'm going to touch on something that I've touched a lot. Why is somebody who wasn't born in Mexico still claiming to be Mexican? I want you to explain that to me. How it makes sense to still claim to be Mexican, but yet you weren't born there.
I could say, like, you know, I talk in Spanish to them, like that's my first language. Like when I meet someone, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm American. Like, I guess some people say like Mexican American, but I just don't say that. Like,
if we're not born in Mexico, although I am, by the way, if you were to be asked, what is your race? What do you say?
My race?
Yeah.
Mexican?
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
what is your ethnic background?
Honestly, I got those mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone, okay, so like when in English, when people are just like, where are you from? Sometimes what I'll say is what I told you, which is like, Mexican parents, but they had me here.
Here's the thing about Mexico. In Mexico specifically, there's different races of people. Of course, that's why you see, you know, blancos over there. You see brown people and you see black people, etc. There's different razas allá, ¿verdad? So obviously, Mexican is not a race because obviously in Mexico, there's a multitude of razas that all are Mexican because they're born there. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you said you're from Oaxaca. Do you know exactly the people of Oaxaca that you're from? For example, like I have a woman on here that follows me. She's from Oaxaca and she is from the Mixteco people. They speak Mixteco. What about you?
My parents speak that.
Ah, okay. So you see, that's your ethnicity, Mixteco.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so you see,
Mm-hmm.
your ethnicity It's basically the people, the specific people that you're from. Esa es tu etnia.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So your ethnic background is the specific tribe of people that you're from. That's your ethnicity, and you are from the Mixteco people, right?
Mhm.
So if somebody were to ask you, what is your ethnicity? Oh, Mixteco. We're from Oaxaca. If somebody were to ask you for your nationality, it's American. Ethnicity, Mixteco. So where in here are you Mexican?
I don't know.
You're not. The reason why your parents are Mexican is because they're born in Mexico. That's the only reason why. Just like if I were to have a child in Canada, he's Canadian. Yes, I'm Mexican because I was born in Mexico, but in
Hmm.
no way, shape, or form is my child Mexican at all. In Mexico, we haven't always identified as Mexican. That has only been since the year 1821. Prior to that, we were Mixteco, Zapoteco, Tarahumara, Huichol, Purépecha. That's how we identified. And then the government of Mexico no longer wanted us to identify as what we actually are. They wanted to ethnically cleanse us. They wanted to erase us by labeling us all Mexican. So for someone like you who actually knows where you come from and to still use the word Mexican as if it were a race, we are contributing to the ethnic cleansing, meaning to the systemic effort of trying to erase our ethnicities. When you first popped in here and I seen you, I immediately identified an indigenous woman. Unfortunately, mainstream Mexico frowns upon that and makes people like you feel like inferior, calling you, Oaxaquitas and Indios pata rajada and derogatory things like that. I'm sure you know,
I
but
know that because of there was a lot of like white people in my school, and that's where I really like learned everything. Because even my parents, like, I never knew, but I'm really glad I know because now it's like, okay, great, like there's like a lot to it, and like you're right, like the whole like a lot of people want to like erase that part of them.
yeah,
It's honestly really sad,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I know like a lot of people don't like it. That's what I like realized. Like a lot of people don't like it, and it's honestly really sad because a lot you hear a lot of people say like where they're from and like they're so proud, and a lot of people like you said like they don't know, and
Yeah.
it's really sad because it's like why would you feel that way? But like it makes sense because if other people are making you feel inferior for that, then
Hmm.
it makes absolute sense that you wouldn't want to claim that part of you.
Absolutely. It makes it tougher. Like, why would I want to be Indio Patarajada or things of that nature? You don't even want to associate yourself. A lot of people in your situation of, where you come from exactly and the language that you come from, the people that you come from, but you would deny it. You would hide the fact, oh, I'm just Mexican. That, well, if I identify myself as an indigenous person, they're going to make fun of me. If we depend on like public schools or schools in general to keep these things alive, they're not going to. On the contrary, they always make systemic efforts to try to erase these things, to hoping they no longer exist or that we can no longer identify as indigenous people. The moment that we identify as Latinos and that's it, is when they win. Because why would you identify with the word that isn't even originally ours? We didn't come up with the terminologies that we invented was Mixteco. So why would you give up your real identity that your ancestors created for an identity that white people created? The Latin word isn't even ours. It originally comes from Italy. When we identify with words like, in my opinion, even Mexican, because prior to 1821, nobody identified as Mexican. Nobody. It wasn't a thing. We were Mixteco, Zapoteco, Huichol, Tarahumara, etc. Especially for someone like you who wasn't even born in Mexico, identifying as Mexican, now you're using the word Mexican as if it were una raza, as if it were an ethnicity, when it's not. On the contrary, the word Mexican is the systemic effort to erase people like you from identifying as a Mixteco.
Hmm.
So we need more people like you. All right. We need more people like you who come from the people that you come from and that speak that language. And so I'm going to actually encourage you to fully learn Mixteco because
Yeah,
once we once we start allowing our original languages to die out, then we're in trouble. We don't want you to know who you are. That's why we're going to prohibit you from identifying as what you really are. And we want to give you a new label. That label is Hispanic and Latino. That's the systemic effort of ethnic cleansing. So that's why it was important for me to ask her, because the first comment that she made when she came in, she said, I'm Mexican. And I swear on everything I love, I said to myself, I bet you she wasn't born there. And that's why it was important for me to bring,
Wow.
for real. That's why it was
Yeah.
important for me to bring you up. I'm like, I'm gonna let her talk about her topic, and afterwards,
That's
I'm gonna ask her where she born.